Welcome to Gold Derby's production design panel with Emmy nominees and our roundtable portion. I'm David Buchanan, joined by Gianna Costa from RuPaul's Drag Race, Patrick Howe from Only Murders in the Building, Eric Morrell from Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, Bob Shaw from The Gilded Age, and Glenda Rovello from Frasier. Such a pleasure to have you all here. I wanted to start with a question, which is, when I watch all of your shows and just TV and film in general, I'm always amazed by the attention to detail in production design. So from all of your work this season, is there some detail in your sets that you're pretty sure the audience maybe won't notice or is going to be hard to spot, but that you're particularly proud of and that you love, and that even if it's only you that knows that it's there, that makes you really happy? Let's start with you, Glenda.
Well, I already mentioned it, like the pendants that we had made by Ryan McNeely, that they're Morse code, and one says Frasier and the other one says Kelsey. Like I really love that we were able to have those manufactured, that the artist agreed to do them and to have them done so quickly. It's amazing how much cooperation you can have and get from an artist.
Gianna?
Oh my God, I'm trying to think right now.
We can come back.
Yeah, come back. I'm like, right now I'm going through every step. I'm like,
You else want to jump in, Patrick?
I guess I'm hoping that the audience notices everything, but I know that's not realistic, and especially since they can only have a chance to see what the camera shows them. But I really do try to layer as much as possible between me and my decorator, Rich Murray, and get as much detail in. So I know, like, I mean, maybe touched on Loretta's apartment. It's a lot of information packed into a small area, and Rich is particularly fond of creating as many Easter eggs as possible because our audience seems to enjoy that. And so in that one, there's so many that and there's no reason for they're just background items, so most of them are kind of subtle, so there's no reason for the camera to really sort of hone in on them in close-up. But there's just really charming touches that are mostly things that are from Meryl Streep's career that can be represented visually, something similar to it that's a riff on a lot of her movie roles. That's fun. And actually, since there was and also kind of in Paul Rudd's apartment in this penthouse, since he happens to play a celebrity movie star, there was a lot of similar type of style of Easter eggs to do there. So I think people, but from my feedback, people caught so much more than I thought they would. So it's a delight.
Bob?
I have sort of a similar feeling to Glenda, that people will do things for you and people will make things for you, and they'll do it in a hurry. And someone watches the show and they say, yeah, they have drapes. And they don't know that you had to beg Scalamandre to make them faster than they usually do. or ask the people who usually have a 6-month turnaround on making the sort of period appropriate carpeting. Could you do it in a few weeks? And people get enthusiastic about working in our industry or working for our industry, and they do amazing things. And the viewer just says, yeah, they're walking on the carpet and they have drapes. And we really had to pull many, many strings to get these things to happen.
Eric?
Yeah, I was just trying to think. We used to have a bunch of Easter eggs behind John in his desk because there was a photo back there, and there was a bunch of there was like Game of Thrones castles and all kinds of things. But we redesigned the set a few years ago, and it's now like all geometric, and it's very beautiful, but it's very simple in terms of what it is. But I was trying to think of something. In the train thing, I did model this character who goes under a train after my daughter. So that was kind of a funny thing to put her in such a terrible place. But
how about you, Gianna?
so I don't know how much we see the Untucked Lounge in the normal season, but that is a room chock full of Easter eggs from seasons past, of props that we have used, and we collect the props each episode and put them in different areas. So that's like our little Easter egg room. But other than that, it's a lot of the graphics we do for the show, like little graphics that you don't always see. That are like kind of little fun little nods to things, and people don't really see much of them. But but for some odd reason, I like to spend a lot of time on these things that no one else really gets to see. And like it's just color to them. So the amount of time we waste on little nods to the audience that don't see, that's always a thing.
I think what's so great about this group too is there's such a diversity of genres and formats of shows. We've got multicam sitcom, period drama, variety, comedy show, reality show. It's so fun to have you all here. And I wanted to ask if you could kind of work in a totally different genre or format than you're working in now for these series, maybe something you've never done in your career or something that you did earlier in your career and would like to revisit. What would you like to dabble in next if you could make a switch tomorrow, a format that you haven't done before maybe? Let's start with you, Patrick.
I think it would be, well, in this career, I think I would have to go back to my theater roots, which was really all in college, and other than assisting on Broadway, it was, there was no Broadway shows that I personally designed. So I suppose that would be a wonderful fantasy to return, to do a big Broadway musical. That would be great.
Bob, do you feel similarly about taking a crack at opera?
Well, I do sometimes, but I'm pretty happy within what I'm doing, but I've been doing a lot of period shows. So I have a hunger to do something that's in the future. And where you had to like make everything up. And it's just such a challenge. And it's like you do something in the future, and somehow or other you have to have the strangest looking glasses you find at Target, because you can't have everything made. But I would love to do what I do, but do it in a future setting.
Yeah, Bob, I'd love to see you do some Star Trekian thing. It would be hilarious.
Gianna?
Oh, I would love to do some kind of like fantasy world, or just like some imaginary reality. I would love to do something where I could just make it all up. Just make it all up in my head. That'd be great.
No research, right?
Yes, that'd be fun.
make
Yeah.
it up.
Eric?
I think I'd like to do like a Aliens movie, like on the spaceship. Something like that, or maybe some really experimental dance piece. So yeah, either one.
Very eclectic. Glenda, how about you?
There's two. I have a wide range. So I think the first thing would be like historical fiction, total period, just because I do really enjoy the research. And then the other one, which would be my fantasy, would be to design the graphic package for something like the Sphere in Las Vegas. I saw that YouTube and you too, and it was phenomenal, the graphic package. It was so stunning.
I'd love to hear about your origins too. Is there a memory of either a television show, a film, maybe Patrick, theater, a set that you remember vividly from, a time before this was your career that stands out to you, that maybe inspired you to do this, or that you just remember as particularly like awe-inspiring and amazing from your time as fans of television and film and theater and other genres? Bob?
Well, I mean, as I said before, for me, it was opera, and it led me to theater, but seeing things on the mat, seeing things on that scale, just sets that were so enormous. And it made me decide I wanted to do this for a living when I was 16 years old. Because I was, I was the kid who lied to my parents and snuck into the city and went to the opera. And, so that was the holy grail for me.
Eric?
Yeah, I was just thinking that I really enjoyed doing the smaller scale stuff. And when I was a kid, I loved the Wallace and Gromit sets. And like, I really want to make miniature sets for like stop motion or something like that. We didn't get to do many interiors; it was all exteriors for this, but I'd love to do that.
Patrick?
I think that an impressionable moment for me, or my version of like in this season, where young Loretta, you know, sees her first show in the 60s and sees Diane Carroll performing. My version of that was being kind of starstruck by seeing the high school. I was in grade school, and my sister said, "You want to come see the musical that I'm doing in high school?" And my response was, "What's a musical?" It's like I had never seen anything. And so even just seeing a high school production was eye-opening, and I was kind of awestruck. And then, you know, and then cutting to a much more professional version, something that comes to mind that just really created a classic theater magic moment for me, where it's sort of you know, spine chilling, was Bob Crowley had designed a production of Carousel at Lincoln Center, and there's just a beautifully designed opening segment of how the carousel is actualized and how it transitions from one scene to another. And I found that so magical. It was like, you know, oh, you know, I'd love to do this.
Gianna?
Well, I grew up in the 80s and I watched a lot of music videos. I wasn't supposed to, but I did. I wasn't allowed to watch that channel, but I snuck it every time I could. And so between seeing music videos and the movies of the 80s, which were so off the wall, some of them, between like, you know, you had Never Ending Story, Legend, but then you have like, you know, the real 80s, like Girls Just Want to Have Fun, like all those things. I watched so much TV and movies when I was a kid. I think I just was able to put myself, like transform myself into everything I watched. And I just loved the environment. And I think when I approach things, I always think of like, well, you know, think of like the times like you're in the Madonna video, or you're, you know, like Aha, like Take on Me, like those were just such like, when I was a kid, I would just be in those. And so I think seeing so much of that made me want to, I'm a visual person, so I really be able to create sets is kind of, you know, I just never thought I would end up being able to do it. I don't know if that makes sense, but it was just being able to see all that. And then as an adult on shows like Drag Race, where you can kind of pay homage to a lot of those music videos and sets and like pop culture moments of the past. So yeah.
It's amazing. And Glenda?
I'd have to say that the ones that I was so awestruck by would be like the Star Wars, you know, the you know, futuristic fantasies. And for some reason I'm drawing a total blank of the illustrator from like the 1940s that did like graphite drawings, and they were very futuristic, and they were just really rough sketches of like the tallest buildings that you can imagine. And they always reminded me of like the Star Wars. And then growing up, I too just watched music videos, you know, just turn on that MTV, and I was totally mesmerized, you know, by them. And now when I look back at them, they were pretty rough. You know, they were just, you know, kind of poorly, or, you know, poorly lit by design, and so that created the atmosphere. So you know, I think that that's also, you know, pretty influential.
Amazing. Well, thank you all so much for your time, Gianna, Patrick, Eric, Bob, and Glenda. Congratulations on these series and your Emmy nominations, and thank you for joining Gold Derby today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Bye.